Just sent me her link.
No worries. You're just in time. You're here. We're good. So it is 6 o'clock and I see that James has started the YouTube feed. So I'm going to go ahead and start as we have quorum. And I will remind the committee that we actually have two regrets. Both Councillor Bohm and Councillor Doherty cannot be with us tonight. So if we lose anyone else, we will lose quorum. So hopefully we can get through the agenda tonight with everyone here. So first on the list is the election of officers. So I'm going to ask if there is a mover for a nominee for chair. Councillor Osanek. Oh, sorry, you are still muted. There we go.
I move Councillor Hutchison to be chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hutchison, do you accept the nomination?
Hang on. Yes, I will.
Excellent. Do we have a seconder? Excellent. I see Councillor McLaren. Are there any other nominations for chair? Seeing none, I will close the nominations and call the question. All those in favor for Councillor Hutchison as chair? And that passes. Thank you. Next is nominations for vice chair. Do we have a motion for vice chair? Councillor Hutchison.
I will nominate Councillor Osanek.
Excellent. Councillor Osanek, do you accept the nomination?
Accepted unless Councillor McLaren or Councillor Holland want it. No, okay. Okay, yes, I accept it.
Excellent. All right, perfect. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Holland, thank you very much. Any other nominations for vice chair? And I see none. So I'm going to call the question. All those in favor for Councillor Osanek as vice chair? And that passes. Thank you. All right, so I will pass the meeting over to Councillor Hutchison.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Actually, I don't know if she's a madam or a man. The other option. So so I will call the meeting to order, and we have to approve the agenda. Is there any addendum? I didn't see one. Elizabeth?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, there is no addendum for tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Councillor Holland, second by Councillor McLaren. Any additions, subtractions? Not seeing any. All those in favor of the approval of the agenda? It passes. Confirmation of the minutes of October the 20th, the minutes of October the 22nd of 2020. Moved by Councillor Osanek, seconded by anybody? Nobody wants to do it? Okay, I'll do it. People are abandoning the chair already. I'll just try to do my best. So all those in favor of confirmation of the minutes, passing that. Delegations. We don't have any delegations, I don't believe. So that's item 7 is a briefing from Kirsty Haneko. And
Sorry, Mr. Chair, can we just go back to disclosure of pecuniary interest?
oh, did I skip over that?
Yes, sorry.
Okay, I'm so used to nobody having it. Okay, you're correct. Number 5, disclosure of pecuniary interest. Has someone figured out how to make money out of this? I'd really like to know. Apparently not. That's very disappointing. 6, delegations. None. I'm just waiting for the clerk to correct me here. The number 7, again, is a briefing by Kirsty Haneko, the Executive Director, and Felix Lee, the Grants Coordinator of the Kingston Arts Council, on the plan for administrating arts funding. So if we could proceed with that. I see Mr. Winkington is here.
Thank you, Councillor Hutchison, and through you, I'm happy to make a brief introduction if that's helpful. We
Yes.
are happy to have Kirsty Hanako and Felix Lee with us here this evening to provide a briefing about the 2021 Plan for Administration for the City of Kingston Arts Fund. This is part of the service level agreement that we have with the Kingston Arts Council. They are required to do an annual review of the program from year to year and to bring forward changes in terms of the administration plan. This year, as the report before you outlines, it was a much more robust consultation process as a result of COVID-19 and taking into account all the broad number of issues that arts organizations are grappling with in this moment. And I will let Kirsty and Felix speak to the process that they went through, the kind of engagement they conducted, and then how that has transferred into the plan that's before you tonight for consideration.
Thank you very much. Ms. Hanako?
Thank you.
Please.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you very much to the committee for the opportunity to speak with you about the proposed revisions to the Kingston Arts Council Plan for Administration of Arts Funding for the Corporation of the City of Kingston in 2021. I am joined by our grants coordinator, Felix Lee, as has been mentioned. So as per our service level agreement with the city, the KAC is charged with the administration of the City of Kingston Arts Fund. The Board of Directors of the Kingston Arts Council maintains oversight of KAC staff and our administration of CCAF, and the KAC provides quarterly CCAF reports to Cultural Services. Each year, a committee consisting of organizations, collectives, jurors, community members, arts practitioners, KAC staff, and City of Kingston staff reviews the program's plan for administration, which otherwise is known as the Plan for Admin. So the Plan for Admin is a vital document that serves as the foundation of the CCAF program. It really ensures its successful administration. So a draft plan for the Plan for Admin for the coming year is annually presented to and approved by the KAC Board of Directors, the city's Arts Advisory Committee, this committee, the Arts, Recreation and Community Policies Committee, and then Kingston City Council. In 2020, as Colin mentioned, both the city and KAC really recognized the unprecedented impact of COVID-19 on Kingston and in particular the arts and culture sector. As a result, the KAC implemented an expanded consultation process that engaged organizations, collectives, and individual artists to really try to better understand the needs, opportunities, and challenges that they are facing and that they expect to face in the next year. This consultation process focused on analyzing the impacts of the pandemic and potential responsive changes to the 2021 City of Kingston Arts Fund. Major structural changes will be considered through a future consultant-led review through the city, so that was not considered as part of this consultation. In September and early October 2020, we hosted 4 roundtables with 19 attendees. We also issued a survey that generated 28 responses. The survey asked artists and arts workers and representatives of arts organizations to share how COVID-19 had impacted their arts practice, activities, and finances. At the roundtables, participants discussed changes to community impact and funding, as well as the type of support they would need to be able to continue working in 2021. In addition to the survey and roundtables, the KAC consulted with jurors involved in the decision-making for the CCAF program over the last 14 years, as well as other granting agencies across the province and City of Kingston staff. KAC staff received feedback from the city's Arts Advisory Committee on September 17th and the KAC Board of Directors on October 7th. So in response to the feedback received, changes have been made to the 2021 Plan for Administration. The revised draft, which has been sent to you, the revised draft was approved by the KAC Board of Directors on October 26th and the Arts Advisory Committee on November 5th. So the annual review process has now been completed. This final version of the 2021 Plan for Admin is now being shared with you as members of the ARCP committee for your review and consideration. So following your approval of the plan, it will move forward to City Council at the January 2021 meeting. So at this time, I'll ask Felix to review the feedback we received through the consultation and explain a little further about how this feedback has informed our proposed changes to the plan for admin for 2021. So I'll turn over to Felix if I could, please.
Hi, my name is Felix Lee and I'm the grants coordinator. So I'm the hands-on administrator for this program. I'm going to give highlights from the feedback we received and then an overview of the significant changes to the document itself. So throughout the process of the consultation, participants were very consistent in highlighting opportunities and challenges that have arisen as a result of COVID-19. The major themes that they identified were decreased revenue. So restrictions on gathering caused most activities, programs, and events to be canceled early in the year, and private sector revenue and donations fell. At the same time, they reported increased cost because they were seeking ways to work safely. They pivoted to smaller socially distanced activities or digital programming as the pandemic progressed, but many were not prepared to make the shift, so it created additional expenses. Uncertainty, the inability to make long-term plans seriously impacted the stability of organizations and the income of independent artists. Capacity, artists and organizations faced a lack of resources and infrastructure necessary to continue to adapt in the long term. And as the pandemic goes on, they experienced increased stress and their ability to pivot quickly diminished. And finally, a loss of collaboration and community. Many artists and organizations reported feeling a loss of sense of community and that they struggled to work collaboratively and safely at the same time. While they are seeking ways to do that, we recognize that it requires time, planning, equipment, and training. However, they did identify some opportunities during the past year. The shift towards digital activities and virtual events opened them to new audiences who had not previously had access to their work. And many groups reported that they were pursuing growing audiences on those new platforms. They also saw an opportunity to refocus on engaging local audiences because, as we know, travel and tourism was significantly affected, particularly early in the year. As a result of these challenges and opportunities, we identified three major areas of CCAF that required review and then potential change. The first one was the program objectives. The participations in the consultation felt that the program objectives needed to respond to new challenges and community needs. Specifically, they felt that there should be increased emphasis on local engagement and community building activities like mentorship and collaboration. Local artists need to be supported as they adapt to working under new conditions through capacity building projects and professional opportunities from arts organizations who hire and competitively pay them. The second area is that the application and adjudication process must be closely aligned with each other and with the revised program objectives. So they wanted to see strong structural links across application and the adjudication criteria to those new program objectives. Additionally, it was noted that new ways to measure impact are necessary. Suggestions included moving away from revenue generation and audience numbers as measurements of impact because these are becoming increasingly unreliable. Instead, participants in the consultation wanted to see evaluation consider how applicants demonstrated need and benefit to the community, as well as the strength of the applicant's contingency and financial planning. Finally, it was felt that the KAC must address the accessibility and flexibility of this process. While digital applications, which were implemented for the first time in 2020 very successfully, were seen as relieving some of the burden on applicants, many still felt that there was a need to streamline the application process with shorter application forms and a wider variety of answer types. Additionally, the KAC is investigating and addressing other barriers, particularly those faced by small unincorporated groups. In response to all of this feedback and the themes from the consultation, changes have been made, as Kirsty said, to the 2021 Plan for Administration. These changes will ensure that the CCAF program is responsive to the needs of the sector and provides continued sustainability to arts organizations and nurtures artistic creativity and innovation. You have, as Kirsty highlighted, a reference with a complete list of all of the changes as well as the document. And I'm just going to summarize the significant ones that are in response to this feedback. The first change that I'll talk about is to the program objectives, section titled Objectives, page 5, section B. These have been reformatted in response to the consultation process and also to longstanding issues of clarity, concision, and alignment with other comparable municipal funding programs. In order to provide clarity, the KAC has separated the objectives that the city is seeking to accomplish from the objectives for CCAF-funded operations and projects. The objectives for the program have then been updated to reflect the impact of the pandemic and to ensure increased accountability, viability, and sustainability. The objectives have been rephrased to emphasize Kingston artists and community needs, collaboration and partnership, arts access, and diversity, equity, and inclusion. The next change is to eligible costs, which appears in the operating section, page 7, C1E, and project, page 12, C2G. These have been updated to specifically include costs related to accessibility and minor equipment purchases to meet new health and safety standards. The next change is requirements to allocating funding, which appears in operating grant size, page 8, C1G, and project grant size, page 13, C2J. These have been updated to reflect the language of the new program objectives. This means an operating stream emphasis on sustainability, viability, and accountability, and in project on viability, accountability, and response to community need. The next change is the rationale the jury may use to reduce an operating grant, grant stability, page 8, C1H. This has been expanded to include inability to demonstrate viability or capacity to deliver, and failure to meet CCAF objectives. The next change is to the amount of project grants, grant size, page 13, C2J. The maximum for project grants has been lowered to $15,000 per grant, and a minimum has been introduced of $5,000. In previous year, project grants had a $20,000 maximum and no minimum. This change will ensure that projects are awarded grant amounts sufficient to enable their success, and it spreads available funds more evenly across successful applicants. The final change that I'm going to highlight is to the adjudication criteria, section D for both streams. It appears on page 14. Both grant streams have been revised to strongly reflect the program objectives, and 2 new points have been added regarding how organizations and collectives have committed to hiring local professional artists and to compensating artists and other employees at industry standard rates. In response to feedback around financial uncertainty in the pandemic, emphasis on revenue generation has been removed, and it's been replaced with the demonstration of effective use of CCAF funds and benefit to the community. Additionally, grant applicants are now required, rather than simply encouraged, to demonstrate diversity, inclusion, and access according to the definitions provided in the plan for admin. And while it's not delineated in the plan for admin, for your awareness in response to some of the other feedback, I would like to highlight that in 2021, we are planning to streamline the application process and to maintain our high level of support for applicants, which we've received a lot of positive feedback about. And additionally, we will be expanding training for jurors with in-person sessions to increase accessibility. And we are actively seeking solutions to the barriers faced by small unincorporated groups. Thank you, and that concludes my portion of the presentation.
Thank you very much. That was very good, I thought, very detailed. Are there any questions of the presenter from the committee? Anyone got any? Councillor Sanek?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, yeah, this year, 2020, definitely different. I think this is the first year in probably 20 years where I haven't gone to the Grand to see the Nutcracker. Like, what type of holiday season is it without the Nutcracker? Like, I'll just have to watch the New York City Ballet's DVD that I have. And, you know, like, it's just so different this year. So thanks for all these changes. I just wondered, for all the proposed changes, you think that after COVID is over, these changes would still all make sense? Or do you think, some things would be revised again after COVID if, the world goes back to normal and everyone starts going into like an audience setting again? What do you think?
I'm happy to give sort of my opinion on that. Of course, none of us really know what's going to come after the pandemic, how the world will change, and how there will be, I expect there will be some necessary changes to how we create and work in our arts community. I think some of the changes that have come forward for 2021 are reflective of probably a direction we were already heading. For example, we were already moving over the past couple of years of kind of increasing our expectation on applicants around describing how they are becoming more diverse, how they are thinking about accessibility to their program and so forth. So this move, for example, to really require them to address those areas was somewhere I expect we would have already addressed that, and I expect that will move forward post-pandemic. Similarly, I think with adjusting kind of the program project grant size to kind of provide a minimum of 5,000 and a maximum of 15,000, I think is an adjustment that makes sense anyways and may continue forward. But really, I mean, we're looking at it for 2021. We have been trying not to make too many guesses about what's going to come next. This is an annual process. So again, end of next year, we'll be doing the same sort of process of reflecting in terms of what's needed in that moment and moving into 2022. So we expect to remain kind of responsive and dynamic in that way. I'll turn to Felix if Felix has any additional notes on that.
I don't have anything additional to add. Like Kirsty said, we do this review annually, so we would anticipate to reevaluate. And like she said, there is still a significant amount of uncertainty around how long the effects of the pandemic are going to last. So we would be looking in 2021 to examine that again.
Okay, great. Yeah, it seems like the changes are really like a lot of changes this year, but a lot of thought and a real deep dive, right, was done to bring about those changes. So that's a lot of work, and congratulations. Thank you.
Councillor Holland and then Councillor McLaren.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation. And this is my first time back on this committee. I had a hiatus of a year or two. So the CKAF work is very familiar, but I apologize if I'm not entirely up to speed. The question, first of all, so the project grant now, the minimum has been lowered to 5,000, but is it there is no minimum, like there's no change to the operating grant minimum, is that correct?
Just to clarify, yeah, there was no minimum to the project amount
right.
at all. So previously it could be, whatever amount the jury allotted that they thought was appropriate. So we've added a minimum just because we've seen in the past that really an amount of anything less than 5,000 is not necessarily going to help a group to substantially cover their expenses and really take their project to where it needs to be. For the operating grants, there isn't, sorry, I'm just trying to reflect on this. Felix, I'll ask you to jump in on the operating grant because my brain has stopped functioning in terms of the maximum and minimum there. The maximum is 75. I believe the minimum is 10K, Felix?
Yes, the maximum is 75 and the minimum is 10 in operating. And that is the same as it has been in previous years. There's no change.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, and then, so the next question is about the individual artist grants, the having the ability to form a collective to apply. I guess I'm just curious, like what type of feedback was there anything specific to the pandemic that was related to the desire for artists to begin to do more of that work together in collectives?
Sure, Felix, I'll invite you if you have particular comments. I mean, certainly we heard from individual artists in a number of ways, certainly within the CCAF consultation and other discussions in the community, that at an individual level, there's certainly need for support to see our artists continue to thrive as I believe we know around this committee, around this table. you know, our artists are working in a gig economy and really depending on service industry jobs and so forth. And so the pandemic has been a real struggle. So they have communicated back to us, you know, the need for continued support. Through the CCAF program, currently there isn't individual artist grants. That's something that may be discussed if there's an external review of the program at a later date, we would hope. But there is this opportunity through the project grants to form an ad hoc group or collective. And we support groups in trying to do so and in pulling that together. I think that I could say in terms of the arts community as a whole, there's been a real desire to think in new ways around what that collaboration can look like, and especially how to pull in skills that they may not have and to move into a virtual sphere or a distanced way of providing arts or presenting their work. Felix, do you have any additional notes in terms of our consultation with the groups?
No, that would summarize it fairly effectively. And is accurate to say there's no individual application at this time, but they can form collectives. We also really wanted to emphasize rates of pay in the adjudication criteria. And that was touched on in the presentation section, that that was a concern that we had, that we wanted to see the groups who are receiving funding providing professional opportunities in the artists that they work with. Most of them hire quite a number of artists to work on their projects or work for their organizations. So we wanted to emphasize that as well, that those artists are being compensated for their work.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Councillor McLaren.
Thank you. Did I hear correctly that some of the measurables are moving from number of people and dollars to the impact on the community?
That was a big conversation in our sort of roundtables with the community, is what does impact look like? And this isn't just new in the pandemic. This is, of course, at any time, you know, community impact goes beyond the number of people in the seats and so forth, and the amount of revenue that's brought in by an organization, for example. But really right now, of course, because we're limited in a number of ways, we started discussing about other ways that we could measure that without a number in a slot in an application form. And one thing that came back was a real desire from potential applicants and past applicants to see an expanded opportunity to talk about, to provide testimonials from the community about the impact of their work, what it meant to attend a particular workshop or to be part of a viewing of a performance or part of community arts work that's happening. So we're looking at that in terms of the application process, how can we provide more of an opportunity for that discussion in the application and link that to the adjudication criteria so that the jury can really consider that as part of the impact that's being demonstrated. Again, I'll ask if Felix has any additional response.
No, I don't have anything particular to say other than a large concern that we heard was around the fact that this grant previously had a lot of the reporting was based around audience number, which is very difficult to track with digital programming. And a lot of recipients were very concerned around having to pivot to smaller activities, which is obviously the correct and the safe choice at this point. So that was something that we wanted to be responsive to and conscious of, that, like I said in my previous answer, we don't know for how long this is going to continue. So we wanted that to not be the make or break for these applicants, that they felt they needed 700 or 1,000 people at an event for them to be considered successful.
Thank you.
Anyone else on the committee? I've got a couple of questions, but I usually go last. So the context for me is I got this phone call some months ago from artists, independent artists, and they're mentioned here, not the specific ones, but as a category. And that seems to me to be a significant change. And I was wondering if you could comment on that. And when I haven't been in touch with them since I first put them in touch with Colin, which he picked up the reins from there after the first couple of times of my contact. So I'm wondering how that conversation went and what we can expect in the future, if you would please.
Sure. I'm hoping you might be able to clarify your question around the change that was made, as sort of a significant change.
It seemed to me that when you're an independent artist, like mostly the arts funding went to incorporated bodies, it seemed to me. And the independent artists, there wasn't a lot of money going there. In fact, my impression was back in the day when this got started, none. Okay, so it's changed over the years. And so the folks I was talking were pretty desperate, really. If they were going to continue to do art and be able to support themselves, there needed to be some changes in funding. And it seems to me you've done that. And which to me strikes me as a maturity in the programming. The city has said, yeah, we see that need. We're going to try and fill some of that gap, which I think Colin might agree was never going to happen 12 years ago. Okay, so because people were so concerned about will we be seen to be spending the city's money properly and all that. But you at the council and our staff have built up quite a lot of trust that you're not going to embarrass us and or do something foolish or something like that, that you're going to handle this. And it seems to me the whole structure of what you're outlining has relaxed because it needs to be nimble and see what will work. And would you agree with that characterization? And then I want to get back to those independent theater people, just how they're being handled in all this.
Yes, I would agree with your assessment. And I think that's something we're really proud of generally at the Arts Council this year and in collaboration with Cultural Services is how we've sort of been flexible and responsive generally in trying to support our arts community. And I think that is reflected in what we're presenting to you as proposed changes for 2021 within the boundaries that we have with this program without doing a larger kind of structural review. I think, as Felix noted, really emphasizing the artist fees that we're wanting to see projects and organizations come forward with how they're going to be paying local artists and how they're going to be paying them at industry rates, where they're finding those rates and so forth will be a big part of this application. We want to see that this money is flowing through to the individual artists in our community through these projects and these organizations. So I think that's really accurate. In terms of this, this independent group, there is as I think many of you may have had conversations with GRIP, which is the Grassroots Independent Professional Artists Advocacy Group in Kingston. This is a really exciting new group of arts activists in Kingston that was born out of a Kingston Arts Council initiative called the Essential Arts Thinking Group. It started off in the spring. We pulled together individual artists in the community, sort of representatives of that grassroots arts community, to start thinking about what they need now, what a vision for the arts could look like. And this particular group, advocacy group, kind of spun out of that work, and it's been really nice to see that happen, that they're stepping forward, really bringing their voices to you as counselors and to other tables to make sure that that experience as a grassroots artist in Kingston is understood. We're in very regular conversation with those artists, and we're looking at ways within CCAF, but also beyond CCAF, to see how we can connect them with funding opportunities, with resources, how we can provide some skills development so they can boost their arts practice into a virtual realm if needed, or to in other ways that they can work safely now. But yeah, we're really pleased to have that group of artists be doing that work.
Okay, that's good to hear. So they'll be getting some money somewhere along the line for certain things. Is that, can I derive that from your comments?
It just certainly depends on the projects and organizations that are approved for funding through the City of Kingston Arts Fund program. So that really is up to the adjudication and up to the plans, but we will be looking for, and we will be tying the adjudication criteria to applicants really demonstrating that they will be hiring local artists at industry rates. So that'll be part of a successful application, in my view. We'll see that happening.
Good, good. Okay, so I think, I mean, this group of councillors is really strongly supportive of the arts, so you're not going to have any problems at this stage. I just wonder from the city's point of view, I'm speaking to Mr. Wigington now, what is your response to, I mean, obviously you're going along with this, but what is your response to this change in structure and funding? And how long do you think it'll last?
Through you, Councillor Hutchinson.
Sorry?
Through you, and in answer to your question, I just want to make sure I'm adhering to procedure. Is it okay for me to answer during the briefing, or can I answer as part of the bid?
Well, I'll just look at the committee. Are they okay with him? He's got a technical point, so yeah, they appear to be fine. Okay.
I mean, there's a number of things that I can add in answer to all the questions that have been raised, but certainly what I appreciate in this moment is the way that the Arts Council was able to do a much more extensive consultation process in this moment, given the situation that we're in, to get a very broad-ranging array of feedback. And what I would say, and it's also referenced in the report before you tonight, that really what we're sort of tracking at this point is a bit of an evolutionary process, in the sense that within the framework that currently exists, we're kind of in a react phase and working with the Kingston Arts Council to assess in a more immediate way what's happening and try and be nimble, as you've suggested, to alter the program within the framework that we have. And what we're looking towards is then more of a sort of an adaptation and evolutionary phase. And we have signaled before this need to do a bigger grant review with a much more extensive consultation process. And that is something that we're wanting to pursue and will pursue, but within a new sort of framework, and that we now recognize that there's going to be a need to look at the program from a sort of recovery point of view, and then move towards, you know, what we hope will be somewhat of a new normal. And I think there's things that have happened in this kind of reaction phase that have had positive outcomes that we'll see gain traction and move the program forward. So, you know, I think we're in sort of the beginning parts of a longer trajectory, but that the program has been able to shift in the short term. You know, and I think in question to some of the impact measurements, you know, I think it's really important, as has been outlined, that there's a greater emphasis on sort of transparency and accountability in the way the program is now being structured. We want to be able, within the arts sector, to be able to demonstrate very clearly through much more sort of qualitative as opposed to quantitative information, the benefits that are being accrued for Kingston residents through this kind of program, and the benefits that it can have. And I think one of the key things is sort of the amplifying effect that the city's investment allows these groups to access other forms of funding and to extend their reach in terms of the kinds of work that they can do and the artists that they can pay. And so going back to your question, Councillor Hutchison, I think one of the things that, you know, I've always been very clear about, and, you know, I've spoken to some of the same artists that you've referenced, this program was never built within a municipal framework to be one that supports individual artists directly. There is a long tradition in Canada of funding from multiple levels of government within the arts sector. And so organizations like the Ontario Arts Council and the Canada Council have a much more robust and long history of individual artist sort of grant and support. And so the realities with the Arts Fund here in the City of Kingston has been that artists benefit through their association with the organizations and groups that get funding. And And so, they are hired, as has been referenced, they are hopefully paid at professional rates that recognize the value of their work, and that they are very much engaged at the front lines in the delivery of the programming and operational pursuits that come as a result of this. So, I think we've heard very much from the community that there's a need for artists to be front and center in this process, and that's definitely something that I think will inform going forward, and hopefully the emphasis, as the way this has been modified, on ensuring an emphasis on local artists, because that was a big discussion as well, how much of these programs engage artists within Kingston versus artists from other regions or outside the province. That's been highlighted as part of this program, and making sure that they are paid at standard rates and creating as many opportunities. And I would sort of post this meeting, and I'm happy to send it by email. The Arts Council also publishes their annual report, where they provide more impact measures about CCAF and its benefits to the community. And there you'll really see the amplifying effects of the city's investment, characterized through the number of artists engaged, the amounts that artists have been paid, the people who have been reached through the programming. So, we are seeing that kind of broader penetration and impact as a result of this particular program.
That's really good. That's really good to hear. Thank you. It's good to hear everyone speaking with confidence about the new structures. And we'll hope we can get through this, right? and the streets not lined with dying artists. So that was a joke. So anyway, does anyone on the rest of the committee have anything to ask? Okay. So now, Madam Clerk, I believe we go to the motion. That'd be correct?
That is correct, Mr. Chair. We need a motion to put the business item on the floor.
Right. Do you want me to read it? Or is it okay just to say, here it is?
Well, Mr. Chair, if you'd like to read it aloud, I think that would help the record.
Okay. It's not that long, is it? Okay. The recommendation that the Arts, Recreation, and Community Policies Committee recommend to Council the following: that the revised plan for administration of arts funding for the Corporation of the City of Kingston Arts Fund in 2021, attached report number ARC P21001 as Exhibit A, be approved as presented. And clerk put it up. Thank you. I'd gone away to read it. So do we have a mover and a seconder for this? Councillor Holland, seconded by Councillor McLaren. Is there, hang on. Have we got any public? Madam Clerk?
No, Mr. Chair, we do not have any members of the public with us this evening.
Okay. So,
sorry, Elizabeth. Mr. Chair, just 1 second. Elizabeth, I'm unable to stop the sharing of the screen. Are you able to do that on your end? Thank you. I don't know what happened.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt.
Okay. Okay. So we have a mover and a seconder. And any discussion by the committee? Seeing none. All those in favor? Voted, it's unanimous, so there's nobody against it. So we move on to that passing. We move on to item 8, business. We've, in a sense, done that, correct, Madam Clerk?
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, okay. And just a second, part of chairing these days involves being able to look at 2 or 3 things at once. So with past recommendation, are there any motions I don't see any. 10 notices of motion. I don't believe we have any. 11 other business, none. Correspondence, none. 13, the date, item 13, date of next meeting is slated for Thursday, February the 25th, 2021, unless it needs to be called earlier. And so we're at adjournment. Item 14, do I have a mover for adjournment? Councilor McLaren, second by Councilor Sanik. All those in favor of adjournment, and it passes. Thank you very much to our guests. And I guess I'll be seeing you all, quote unquote, seeing you all at some point in the near future. Hey, bye now.